Okay, good morning. Good morning, guys. Welcome to day 7. We are making progress. Okay, good morning. So this is day 7 of our training business analyst, product owner, and then product management training. By the end of this, these sessions that we're having, you should be able to function in the capacity of a business analyst. And if you happen to get thrown at a job like maybe like a product owner, a product manager role is also thrown at you. By the end of these trainings as well, you should be able to function in the capacity of a product manager as well. And then also, you should be able to function in the role or in the area of a product owner as well, right? So this morning, we starting off with Agile, very exciting. So for the past 1 week and a couple of days, and just yesterday, we heavily, we've centered around waterfall and how we build and then deployed, ship out application. This morning, we will be talking about Agile. So we'll be talking about Agile. Agile is also another methodology that we use for the building and also for the shipping of application. So we've looked at, waterfall. We've talked about waterfall in its entirety, and this morning we'll be shifting gears to Agile framework. So what at all is Agile framework, right? What at all is Agile framework? Again, if you have any question, if you have any queries, anything, put it in the chat box, and then when I'm getting to the end of the hour, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'll begin to deal with the questions. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so Agile is the same framework. We use it for building the same platform, just like we did for the waterfall. Agile is the same methodology, same platforms. Just like I was showing you guys these examples of Wells Fargo, eBay, State Farm, same thing. You can use Agile framework or Agile methodology for building applications. Similar, in the same, magnitude, the same volume. So you will not do less, you will not do more. It's the same kind of platforms, but the methodology is what we are discussing here this morning. It changed, right? The methodology is different. So what is Agile methodology? Agile methodology or practice? What is Agile methodology or practice? So Agile methodology is a practice that promotes continuous iteration of development and testing throughout the software development lifecycle of the project, right? In the Agile model, both development and testing activities are concurrent, unlike the waterfall model. Now, if you guys remember when we were talking about waterfall, I may mention the fact that in waterfall, when a project kicks off, it uses the same waterfall methodology, also uses, the SDLC. We all follow the SDLC. That is a software development lifecycle. So requirement gathering, design, development and building, testing, deployment, maintenance. But in waterfall in particular, when you kick off a project, when, for instance, development work starts, you would have to wait. They would have to complete the entire project So if we were building a platform for, let's say, a church, or a platform, let's say an e-commerce platform, right, for shopping, we will finish with every piece and feature of this platform, be done with all the development work, all the modules that are on the platform. And then when that is done, we will turn it over to the QA or the testing team. And the testing team will also do their bit, right? They will also test the application. And then the problem there is that when QA discovers something that is very fundamental, that goes into the infrastructure, or maybe architecting or something like that, that impacts on maybe a module like that. That means we'll have to go back to, essentially go back and redo, or maybe we'll have to rework the entire thing again, right? And of course, when we are done, it will have to follow the same sequence or the same pattern again. We'll have to come to QA. QA will have to test. And then this time around, QA is testing. QA is testing the entire features. So development work takes time. Testing also takes time, because imagine QA is testing the entire application, right? Every feature of the application is being tested, not some features, right? Every feature of the application is being tested. So QA is also going to take some time. They're also going to take some time to do their testings, their findings. They will record their defects, they will record their bugs, all those reports, and then they will send it back again to development team. And then development team will help fix these bugs that have been discovered by QA. And then QA will retest again. It will go through regression testings, and then hopefully they don't discover additional bugs again. So you guys can imagine, the entire ecosystem of waterfall and the type of activities that happen. And this usually prolongs delivery of, a product. This methodology, prolongs early release of feature sets. This methodology prolongs early feedback, being able to demo, being able to show to the customer that, look, this is even a simple feature that we have done, we want to demo it to you. No, the customer will not get that early, feedback, that early, release of this feature set. The customer will only see this when all these activities that I have touted, is done and over, before the customer will now get to see his or her application, right? And this takes time. Development works alone. Let's even talk about requirement gathering. The requirement gathering process, like yesterday, you guys saw, sometimes, for yesterday, we were just talking about login, sign up, registration, sign up, and then login, and we talk about bill payment, and I think we had view account balance or something like that. So this feature is just small, but if we were building an entire, platform, you guys will imagine we will have almost about, we can go up to 100 features. So requirement gathering process alone can take about 6 months, 7 months, just to cover all the feature sets that we will build in just one application. So when requirement gathering is done, imagine when development commences, how long is it going to take development work as well, right? And then when development work is done, imagine again the QA or the quality assurance effort as well. The effort of quality assurance, how long is that also going to take us? Also a couple of months. It's going to be maybe 2 months, 3 months or something. And then hopefully they don't find any bug. But if they discover bugs or defects, then that means it will even prolong the delivery of the product even more, right? So that is, waterfall and how things are done. But in Agile, we're saying here that Agile is a practice that promotes continuous iteration of development. What does this mean? Continuous iteration. That means work is broken down. We will have to break down these feature sets that we want to build, right? We'll have to break it down, and there's going to be like a continuous loop somewhere, but we will get to that. So continuous iteration of development and testing. So that means testing and development work are done in parallel, right? Are done in parallel. So it says over here that in Agile model, both development and test activities are concurrent. That means they move together at the same time. We don't go and then one who's going to be left behind and then we'll have to come and pick one activity up, and when we are done, no. So testing, development work are all done in parallel, right? Unlike the waterfall model. So keep in mind, guys, I want you guys to keep this in mind. Agile software development methodology is one of the simplest and effective processes to turn a vision for a business need into a software solutions, right? Agile is a term that is used to describe software development approach that employ continual planning, learning, improvement, team collaboration, evolutionary development, and early delivery, right? You guys remember I talked about the fact that, you know, there's an early delivery over here. And it encourages flexible responses to change. Now, Agile came into the scene. They said, no, waterfall, you know, we're not going to give you a chance here. We will compete with you and we will even beat you to it. Why? For us, we don't go by all these processes that, you know, you employ. For us, we want to be able to learn, you know. So Agile promotes what we call continual learning. Let's do something, guys. Let's get things going. And as we move along, we will learn as well, right? See, this is the philosophy and the mindset of Agile. Agile says that, no. Let us not waste, you know, 6 months, 7 months in just gathering requirements alone. Trying to know from the stakeholder what he or she intends, what are their desires, what they want to build. No, let's get along with the stakeholder. Let's start talking. Let's begin to do something. And as we move along, we'll be planning along. And as we move along, there's going to be improvement. We're going to be learning. We're going to fail. We're going to get better. Not everything is going to look good, but we will learn along the way and get better. See, this is the philosophy of Agile software development. They say, no, you know, if we want to sit here and be better and be improved, and everybody will give us a thumbs up, we will not get anything done. So guys, let's get going. And as we move, we'll be learning along the way. So Agile promotes learning. And so we have a ceremony in Agile. We're talking about the ceremonies very soon, momentarily. But we have a ceremony in Agile that is essentially about learning. You know, we just come together as a team and we are just learning. And it's about improvement. We always want to get better. And then team collaboration, instead of, you know, the business analyst, the PO, just engaging the stakeholder and talking about some of these things. Sometimes in Agile, it's all about the team. The team can get together, stakeholder collaboration and other meetings, and then talk about, you know, the feature set that we want to build, right? And then early delivery. This time around, because we're breaking the feature sets into different pieces, we can get early delivery. Because in Agile, the philosophy here is that every feature set that we work on in one iteration, in a time box, every feature that we work on is shippable, it's deployable. And what does that mean? It means that every feature set that we work on, it doesn't matter whether it is maybe, you know, like a donate button. It doesn't matter whether it is who we are page. That feature set should be ready to go. That means we can go live with it. We need to build it, test it, and ensure that it is functional, and ensure that we can deploy, we can go live with that, right? So, and then lastly over here is it encourages flexible responses to change. So as we move, as we have, you know, time box iterations, we are very flexible. We say, customer, come and talk to us. This is what we have done. You know, is it, you know, does this meet what, you know, you wanted us to build, to build? Is there anything you want to change? So it encourages flexible response to change. You guys remember waterfall, before the customer will see the product, that means we are almost over 1 year before the customer will see something. But with Agile, very flexible, 2 weeks, you know, 3-week cycle, 1 month, we are showing the customer something, and the customer can give us a feedback and say, no, you guys have taken a departure from what, the original, vision of this platform is. This is what I thought we were going to build. Or the customer can say, great, this is exactly what I wanted, right? So it encourages flexible response to change. And this is great. All right, moving on. Now let's talk about the Agile Manifesto. Guys, you guys have to keep this in mind. You guys have to be able to quote this when you wake up from your sleep, right? This is the Agile Manifesto. This is the Agile Manifesto. So Agile has, a couple of things that, they adhere to as a methodology, but these 4 pillars form what we call the Agile Manifesto. And you guys have to keep this in mind, right? You guys need to keep this in mind. So number 1, individual and team interactions over processes and tools. These guys really showed up. They really want to beat waterfall to it. So they already mounting defense, to attack, waterfall, right? It's an individual and team interactions over processes and tools. So waterfall, it would have to things would have to move sequentially. Oh, when we are done with this, we will go to the next one. When we are done with this, we'll go to the next one. No. In Agile, we want team to be able to engage. We want QA to be able to ask questions, development questions, and ask what is going on. What's up with this feature? But because we're working together, we're moving concurrently, right? We're developing and testing in parallel, right? So individual and team interactions over processes and tools, right? So in waterfall framework or in that methodology, there are so processes. They respect and they cherish the processes more. But in Agile, we say, no. Teams can collaborate. Team members can talk. They can get engaged and get going, right? So that is the philosophy of Agile. Number 2, a working software over a comprehensive documentation. This is also another big attack on waterfall, because in waterfall, you do requirement gathering, you build a nice document, you put all the feature sets and all the things that yesterday, I talk about some of these things that you see, document revision, approvals, functional requirement, non-functional requirement, and what else? And so many things, business process affected, all those things, you build a very nice catalog of document, right? You take about, 4 months building a document. Agile says that, rubbish doesn't say, no. We want a working software. Our mindset, our goal here should be a working software. That should be our end goal. We don't care about documentation. And so they rubbishes that. And as a matter of fact, they don't even do that type of documentation. Even sometimes it helps, and I will encourage you guys to, even if, when you start a project and the project is an Agile, environment, right? That means the team execute whatever that they're doing using Agile methodology. You still have to keep in mind to be having some form of documentation around you. So here they say working software over what? Comprehensive documentation. Guys, let's get going. Let's build something. Let's build a feature that is functional, that people can use. That we don't care about documentation. So that's the idea here. Number 3, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, right? So in Agile, we care about, getting something out early and getting the feedback from the customer than waiting and signing long-term contract and, getting all these processes in place. We want to be able to collaborate with the customer. We want to be able to engage the customer and say, the stakeholder, what exactly do you want to build? So there's a lot of customer collaboration, as you guys will see it very soon. When in Agile, we talk to the stakeholder all the time, right? So, when we were talking about waterfall and when we were talking about yesterday, I gave you guys the work breakdown. You guys know the processes, and then, you take the document to the stakeholder or the solution owner, and they review it, and then they give their feedback, and then they sign off on it. No. In Agile, is a complete, shift. You are engaging the customer all the time as a team is building. We don't have time, right? We don't have time. You start engaging the customer, you start building, you start, talking about again to the customer. Is this feature looking good? Are we done here? You move on to the next one. So that is how we move here when it comes to Agile. And the last one over here, responding to change over following a plan. So in Agile, in Waterfall, there's a long processes when it comes to the customer giving an input and saying that, I want to change this, I want to change that. We will have to follow a change management process, right? And I have a session on a change management. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about documentations that you use in change management. I need to get you guys grounded. I need to prepare you guys. It doesn't matter whether you go to a waterfall environment or an Agile. I want you to be tough over there. So I will essentially, teach you guys all these things, when it comes to change management processes, right? But here we're talking about responding to change over following a plan, over following change management processes. And that's what Agile is saying. We want to be able to listen to the customer, listen to the stakeholder, say, no, this is not what we intended. Can you guys change this? And we say, yes. In Agile, we say, yes, we can change it. What do you want to do? What do you want to see? Right? And then you take the feedback, and then we go ahead, we change it. We incorporate that into our sprint planning and our activity, and then that's it. We move on. That is the nature of what Agile. That is the nature of Agile. So responding to change over following a plan. Guys, these 4 pillars, these 4 core values of Agile, you guys have to embed it in your DNA. You got to be able to tell me, and maybe Thursday or something, I'm going to be doing a pop quiz. I'll just be calling people's name, and I'll just be asking you, tell me the Agile Manifesto, right? I'm just giving you a hint that I've already hinted you that Thursday there's going to be a pop quiz, right? So when I say the Agile Manifesto, you got to be able to tell me, not only tell me, but explain to me, as you compare it to Waterfall, just like I've narrated. You compare it to, I've taken my time, when I take the value or the manifesto, I go back to the processes in Waterfall and the change over here. So Thursday, when we get into the pop quiz segment, get ready. When I call your name, you got to be able to tell me, this is why this is different here in Agile. All right, moving on. So in Agile, there are different frameworks that we see over here, that is known over here in Agile, right? But 2 of these frameworks are very popular, even though there's a third force called SAFe, SAFe Agile. People are using, it's becoming popular, but I'll essentially dwell on these 2 over here, SCRUM and KANBAN. SCRUM and KANBAN. So SCRUM methodology or SCRUM framework in Agile is very popular, and then KANBAN is also very popular. So what is KANBAN and what is SCRUM? Pretty much the difference between KANBAN and SCRUM. So SCRUM team focuses on reducing the time it takes to a project or a user story from start to finish. They do this by using KANBAN board and continuously improving their flow of work. And then when it comes to SCRUM team commits to ship working software through a set of intervals called sprints, right? So if you guys hear me say sprint, that means we're talking about SCRUM here, right? Sprint, we're talking about SCRUM here. So the difference here between these 2 frameworks of Agile is that in KANBAN, when we pick up feature sets that we want to build, okay? When we pick up features that we want to build, we just take the features, we develop it, QA test it, we ship it, we deploy it, right? We don't have any time iteration. We don't have anything like sprints or 2-week cycle or a 4-week cycle or a 1-week cycle to get done with our work. In KANBAN, it is just, what do we need to build? Once we start building, we move on to the next one. Once we start building, when we're done, we pick the next feature set and then we build it, right? We are not rushed into delivering a feature set within 2-week cycle or a sprint, interval, just like Scrum will have it, right? So that is Kanban, right? Now, Scrum. In Scrum, we are time boxed. I want you guys to keep in mind. We are time boxed to an iterative cycle, okay? We are time boxed into an iterative cycle. So usually the popular one is a 2-week cycle, a 4-week cycle. When you go to different organizations that are using Scrum to build and ship out, product software, they are tied to 2 weeks sprint. So that means we pick up a certain feature set, we start development work, and then we keep going. 2 weeks is done, we dump it over there, and then it's ready. That these features have been built and then tested within the 2 weeks, and then we pick up another set of feature sets, and then within the 2-week cycle, we tested 2 weeks, we are done. We pick up a different set of feature sets, right? That we want to build. So, for instance, if we were building something like what was our example that we were using? Okay, I think the first day we were talking about ABC Church, right? So we have a church platform. So on the church platform, there's going to be a header menu, so many features or functionalities on the church platform that the church has access to build, right? So who we are, what we do, ministries, media center. We're going to have something like a donate button where people can go over there, they can pay their tithing and offering and other contribute to support other projects of the church and whatnot. There's going to be so many features over here, live stream services and other things. So our first 2 weeks, for instance, we pick up maybe who we are, what we do, and then in 2 weeks, we build this, test this, and we ship it. We go live with it. When we say go live with it, that means we launch it, right? That is the idea of Agile. That is the idea of this framework, right? That in Agile, when we start a feature set, once we are done with this, that means these feature sets are shippable, they are deployable. So that means we can launch these feature sets for our church members to start using it. That is the idea. So once the customer approves of it and say, yes, this is exactly what we want to build, the customer can go live immediately with these feature sets, or the customer can park it and say, good job, guys. You guys have built what we do, who we are, sessions of the platform. It's good, but my preference here, is that I will wait. And then when we are done with donate button, donate page, and all the other pages on the platform, media center, and all the other sessions of the platform, I will go live. That is just the choice and preference of the customer. But for us, we essentially we're breaking down the feature sets and we're rolling at a very fast speed, right? We're building and deploying at a very fast speed, right? So when we are done with every feature set, it's done. We have tested it, it looks good, it looks great, we are done with it, right? It's the choice of the stakeholder to say that, oh, even though you guys are done with this feature, I will park it somewhere, I'll wait when you guys are done with all the other rest of the features, and then I'll go live, with it, right? So in Scrum, the team is tied to a sprint iteration, a time box. So like I said, most organizations, the popular sprints that they use, we have a 2-week sprint cycle. So that means every 2 weeks, the company, they ship out something, they update something, they upgrade their platforms, they add new features to the already existing platforms. Sometimes too, some companies go with the monthly one, the 4-week sprint, right? So they pick up new features, they develop it, they test it within the 4 weeks, and then they ship it. So once they ship it, they go live with it, right? These features are added to the already existing platform as well. So take note here, the difference between Kanban and Scrum is going to be a pop quiz, right? It's going to be a pop quiz on Thursday. And when I call your name, you're supposed to tell me. You're supposed to be able to brief me, and I will say, yes, this is what I'm talking about, right? So Kanban and Scrum. In Scrum, there's a time box, iteration, 2-week cycle, 4-week cycle, that, we pick up, we prioritize, feature sets, and then we commit them into the sprint backlog. We start developing work, we test it, and then we deploy it. That is Kanban and Scrum here. All right, moving on. Now, there are some ceremonies that we observe in Agile. There are the 4 main ones, and there are other ceremonies as well, but I'll show you all the other ceremonies, and that's why I have this here, right? So we have a couple of ceremonies that we observe, in every place that you go. They say, do as the Romans do. There are, traditions and other things that, here, we need to essentially adhere to or conform to these, traditions or ceremonies. You can say rituals, right? So we have Agile rituals here, and we need to adhere to it, right? Once we are saying that we're going Agile, whatever that Agile tells us, that is exactly what we do. So let's start with the top over here. So we have daily stand-up meeting. In Agile framework or Agile methodology, we have something we call daily stand-up meeting. Daily stand-up meeting. What does this mean? So daily stand-up meeting, every day of the week from Monday to Friday, right? The Scrum team, when I say the Scrum team, I'm talking about the developers, the software engineers, software test engineers as well, the QAs, the quality assurance engineers, and some other members of the enterprise, platform, the IT team. They come at one place. These days, everything is virtual. So we use Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams, we use all the other type of communication applications that are out there, right? So we gather on a call, usually by 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., 10, 11, depending on time, but usually it's early in the morning. That is the idea. So we come on the call, and then members of the Scrum team will take turn and give their statuses. And usually the format for the daily stand-up meeting is 3 things. This is what I worked on yesterday. Today, I'm gonna focus on this one, and I don't have any blocker. I don't have any impediment. Are you guys listening? This is the format for the daily stand-up meeting. Agile is rapid, it's fast, it's quick. We don't want anybody to be delayed in the process. So this is why we have a daily stand-up meeting, Monday to Friday, right? So when team members gather on this call, this is all that they do. And usually, statuses are from developers and QAs. These are the folks that will provide their statuses, because these are the guys that are working. They are developing and testing, and we want to make sure that if they have an issue, they have a problem, we can escalate and then resolve the issues for them in a timely fashion. Because if we delay them by a couple of hours, by a day, it will have some impact, negative impact on our delivery schedule, right? Because we have 2 weeks to deliver, right? This feature says that we have prioritized. So on the daily stand-up meeting, guys, again, what are the 3 things? Number 1, when a developer start their status, they say, talk about yesterday I worked on this, today I'm going to be working on this, or today I'm going to keep working on the same thing, or today I'm going to focus on this story, this feature, and I don't have any blocker. That is the format. That is how they give their status. So yesterday I worked on this, today I'm going to work on this, and then I don't have any impediment. And then they move on to the next one. So John, let's say there's another developer called John. John will also come on. Oh, yesterday I started working on the Who We Are page, and today I'm going to continue on, but today I'm going to finish with that, and I will start with What We Do page as well, and I don't have any blocker. And then move on to the next person, and then we will have maybe John Goat come on as the next person, and then John Goat will also say, yeah, yesterday I started working on the donate button, the donate feature. Today I'm gonna continue with the same donate session, and hopefully I should be done. And for now, Well, I have a blocker. The APIs for our payment gateway integration is not ready. We are still talking to authorize.net, or maybe we're still talking to Stripe. We should have that APIs ready, and then we can integrate the Visa, MasterCard on the payment session. Are you guys following the conversation? Right. So John Gold will give his update, and then he will say, I'm working on it, but I have a blocker. I still don't have the APIs, the payment gateway APIs that we're supposed to integrate, so that when people come on the donate, page of our example of our project, ABC Church platform, that is where they'll be able to pay their offering, their tithe, their support other projects, donate towards a wedding cause and other things. But the payment gateway that we're supposed to use, so that when people come on the platform, they can donate using Visa card, MasterCard, and whatnot. He's saying that API is not ready. So that means we have a blocker. That means we need to escalate this, and make sure that that payment gateway with our third-party company or vendor, we're able to get it in time, right? So everybody will give their status. You'll talk about what they work on the previous day, what they're working on today, and what maybe if there are blockers, if there are an impediment, then they'll say it. QAs will do the same thing. Testers will also say that yesterday is what I work on. Today, I'll keep testing this, and I don't have any blocker. I don't have any impediment. So that is daily stand-up meeting. Keep in mind, Thursday on our pub quiz, everybody's going to take turn and explain one of these ceremonies in its entirety, right? Very important. And then we have product user story grooming. Product user story grooming. So what is that ceremony for? So when we write stories, right? When we write stories, this is also another ceremony. It could be any day of the week. It could be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, one of the days, or even twice in a week. We're going to have a meeting schedule, 1 hour block or 30 minutes block or something. And the PO, the product owner, or the business owner is going to come up with this, stories that he or she have written. And the meeting can be facilitated by the product owner, or the meeting can be facilitated by the Scrum Master, right? In Agile, we have different roles and titles. We have the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is almost like the project manager in Waterfall, right? So the Scrum Master coordinates the affairs and the activities of the team and ensure that, everybody is on track and there are no, delays and, whatnot. So the product user story grooming session, when we come on this call, we talk about the stories that have been written, that is the feature sets that we want to build. And then this is the time that we want to establish what we call definition of ready. We establish what we call definition of ready. So by definition of ready, we want to get the story up to a point where we can actually develop it, right? So all the unknowns, all the uncertainties, all risks, all assumptions, sometimes the story is too big. We want to split it and make it smaller stories. All these things are done at this phase or this step, right? So as we talk about the story and as we talk about the things that we're going to be doing, so for instance, we will pick up the donate story or feature over here. So we'll talk about it that the church has asked us to build a donate session, and on the donate page, we will have tithing as an option over there. We'll have, offering also as an option. We will have, what water projects in Africa. We will have maybe housing, shelter for the homeless people in America. We will have all those type of options over there. So we talk about all these things. And of course, we also talk about the payment gateways and APIs that we need to integrate, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, all the other type of, preferred method of payment that we need to do. So we talk about all these things, and then essentially we get the story fully fleshed, right? We add more details to it, right? So all uncertainties, all unknowns, all risks, assumptions, all these things are talked about at this point in time, at this step, right? That's what we call grooming. We are grooming the story to a level that we can all appreciate and say it's ready, now we can develop it, right? So that is grooming session. And then we have retrospective meeting. That's another ceremony. Sometimes on one day, maybe Mondays, every 2 weeks or something, when we are done with every sprint, so every sprint is like 2 weeks, as I talked about, as I mentioned. So 2 weeks, we have a sprint. At the end of the sprint, as a team, you guys remember the manifesto, continuous improvement and continuous learning. This is where it is. So retrospective meetings, we come on a one hour call. Yeah, usually 1 hour call. And then what do? We look back to what we have done for the past 2 weeks. And then we talk about ways that we can become better as a team, ways that we can improve. So usually there are 3 things or 3 core pillars that teams look at when we are having retro meetings, right? So retrospective meetings, number 1, we are talking about what can we stop? What do we need to stop doing as a team? There are certain things that we are doing that does not help us, right? There are things that people are essentially practicing and essentially doing as part of the team that we think is not helpful, it's not beneficial. So number 1, what do we need to stop doing as a team? And the team members will talk about it. I think we need to stop about this. We need to stop doing this. Number 2, what do we need to keep doing? So there are things also that are plus, right? They are good things. They are positive. It promotes teamwork. It promotes collaboration, effort, and whatnot, right? So there are things that we need to keep doing as a team. We'll talk about that as well. And there are things that we need to start doing. There might be a new technique somewhere. There might be a new method of doing and improving and getting things done somewhere. So what do we need to start doing? If somebody has learned something somewhere, you say it, the team members will look at it. If it's great, we can adapt it. We can, integrate it into our processes, right? And become better, become efficient, right? So that is the idea behind Agile, Scrum, right? Or this meeting, or what meeting that we call retro meeting or retrospective meeting. Is a meeting that we look back to what we have done and say, what are the ways that we can improve? And this is done every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, once we are done with one sprint, we talk about this. We have this retrospective meeting. Let's talk about sprint planning and kickoff meeting. So the team also has a ceremony called sprint planning and sprint kickoff meeting, right? So sprint planning kickoff meeting, at the beginning of every sprint, the team will come together, just like we have the Scrum meeting, the daily stand-up meeting in the morning. So let's say that, yesterday was Monday, right? Yeah, yesterday was Monday. So let's assume that, let's imagine for a second that last week Friday was when we ended our 2-week sprint, and yesterday we started a new sprint that is also going to run for 2 weeks, right? So yesterday in the morning we started a new sprint. So the team come together, we look at the feature set that we are about to build, and then we plan. We say, okay, developer John, you take this story. Developer C, you take this story. Developer D, you take this story. So this is where stories are assigned. This is where we talk about, how the sprint is going to go, the stories that we have, and all of that. These are all that we need to build. So we plan, and then we kick off the sprint, right? That is the idea. Kick off sprint. So, team members are assigned the stories that they're going to be working on for the next 2 weeks. And if there are any issues that we need to discuss, we'll talk about it. But essentially, that is sprint planning and kickoff. So we have a kickoff meeting. We talk about the features that we want to accomplish, what we want to get done, by the end of this 2 weeks iteration, or at the end of this 2-week cycle. This is going to be our deliverable, right? Deliverables. So we talk about it. That's sprint planning and sprint kickoff meeting. So this happens, guys, take note, at the beginning of the new sprint, right? And then we have storytelling and estimation. Storytelling and estimation. So once we have groomed stories and stories have come to a level where we can develop, we bring it to the large team or a large audience, everybody, the QAs, testing, test engineers, and then software engineers. And what do we do, guys? We tell the story, like we tell them about these user stories, and then they estimate. Now, keep in mind, every team, we have what we call sprint velocity. Write this down somewhere because it's going to be important. We have what we call sprint velocity. What does sprint velocity means? So sprint velocity is basically the strength, the capacity, the bandwidth of the team, right? So every team, we have what we call sprint velocity. So that means this is our strength. we have a certain number of stories that we can work on at every sprint. We cannot take on any additional stories or features because it will go beyond our strength, our capacity, or our bandwidth, right? So we have a bandwidth to finish up with stories about maybe 55 or maybe 56 or 57 or 50 or maybe 25, maybe 20, maybe 30, right? So we cannot exceed this, threshold or this cap. If our sprint velocity is 50, when we are planning a sprint, once we prioritize stories and then we get to that point of 50, that's it. We cannot add any more additional stories to the stories that we're about to work on. But all of these things will happen because we have estimated the stories, guys. We need to estimate these stories, these features. For instance, the who we are page, the what we do, the donate session, the media session, where when people go over there, they can join our live church service, our live Bible studies on Wednesday. All these features have to be developed, but we need to estimate it. We need to be able to say this feature is going to take me 2 days, it's going to take me 3 days, it's going to take me 5 days to finish with this feature, right? So storytelling estimation, as we tell the story or as we talk about the feature sets that we want to build, then the team members will take time to estimate it, right? So let's say we're talking about the donate page over here. So we talk about the story on the donate page. We want to have our tithing option over there. So when people go to donate, they'll be redirected to a new page where they will see all the options about donating. They will see offering. It's going to be another button over there. We will see tithing. It's going to be another button over there. There's going to be Africa Water Project, Africa whatever project. They will have all sorts of things out there. And then they will say, the other projects that they also embark on here in continental US, right? So they'll have all these options over there where people can donate, where people can give and support, right? All these projects. It's great. And then we'll talk about the APIs that we need to integrate because we need to have Visa in there. We need to also have, maybe PayPal APIs in there so people can give using PayPal, right? People can give, Zelle. People can give, using, Cash App, whatever. We need to have all this information out there. So people will have a lot of options, and they will not say that, oh, you guys didn't have my payment method in there, so I cannot give. So we will put out there all the payment options so that people can give, right, using their preferred method of payment. So storytelling and estimation, as we tell these stories that this feature is what we want to build, developers will usually take turns and say, listening to this feature, this is going to be 2-point story. This is going to be a 3-point story. This is going to be a 5-point story. So they will give their estimate. And by saying that this is a 3-point story or a 5-point story, what does this translate into? A 5-point story means 5 days. This is going to take me 5 days to deliver this, to finish up with this feature. When a developer says this is a 2-point story, that means it's a 2 days story, right? That means it's going to take me 2 days. This is a 3 days, like a 3-point story. What does that translate into? It's going to be 3 days as well, right? So they will take turns, and QAs will also give their estimate that testing will also be 1 point. So that means a day. It's going to take us a day to test this story as well. So developers and QAs, they all give their points, and the aggregate of that is what we will assign to that story. So every story will be assigned a point, a story point. Every feature set will be assigned a story point. So by the end of the day, we have all the features, all the things that we want to build as stories. They will all have points assigned to them. So you will see that some of the stories will be 2, some of them will be 5, some of them will be 3, some of them will be 2, some of them will be 2 story. So you will see all these type of things. So when we are planning about a sprint, we look and aggregate and add all the stories that we want to build, and then we make sure that it does not exceed our sprint velocity, right? So if our sprint velocity is 30, so once we start adding, we pick up the donate page button. We say that that story is a 5-point story. Okay. We say the media page, that story is also another 5-point story. So what do we have? 10 points. So we begin to add up. We begin to add all the features that we want to build, all the things that we want to, the tasks that we want to do. So when we add it up, all these story points, and then we get to the threshold that maybe 30, which is our sprint velocity. That's it. We cannot add any new story, and all the other stories will have to wait till when we are done with this sprint. Then we'll begin to prioritize them again and then add them, because we've exceeded our threshold, our capacity, right? Our bandwidth. Okay, so that is it for storytelling estimation. Let's talk about sprint review. So in the course of the sprint, we can review the sprint, how the sprint activity is going, and talk about, if, we are on course to, to be able to deliver the feature sets that we said that we should deliver at the end of the 14 days or the 2 weeks, cycle. So that is all about sprint review. And then product demo. I want to get to product demo so I can give you guys some 2 minutes, to ask questions. So sprint demo meeting. So at the end of every sprint, we bring the stakeholder in, the owner of the platform, and say, hey, this is a feature that we have finished. We want to demo it to you. So we show the stakeholder or the owner, a demo, and say, hey, these are the features that we have done. So we demo it to the stakeholder. You remember Agile Manifesto, customer collaboration, early feedback, early release, right? So we demo it to the owner or the stakeholder, and the stakeholder is able to give us his or her input and say, great, this one looks good. Or the person can say, you guys have taken a departure a little bit from this feature. This is actually what we intended. So can you guys, correct that? We say, no problem. That is all Agile is about. Changes. We are flexible to change, right? So 2 weeks, we go ahead and, make the changes and whatnot. We are flexible to that. So that is sprint demo. And that brings us to the end of today's session of Agile ceremonies. Tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with something else. So questions, put it in. We have some 2 minutes left. So Eben is asking a question here. He says, please, how do we get the capacity or the bandwidth for the team to be able to stop at that capacity? So if the team is a brand new team, if the team already is there, they already know their capacity. They already know their bandwidth. They already know that their threshold is a 50-point story. They already know that as a team, this is our strength. We cannot do more than this in one sprint, right? So maybe a 25-point story, 30-point story. That is all that we can. That's our max. We cannot go beyond that, right? So they already know this. But even if they don't know, and it's all a brand new team, there is a technique that we use, and we have a reference story that we always use, and the team will be looking at that reference story, and that is how we'll be able to start estimating stories for the first time. And also, if the team is a brand new team again, and then we need to be able to establish some of these pillars like sprint velocity, story point estimation. We need to look at the complexity of the story. We need to look at the value of the story. We need to look at the risks, assumptions, and all those things. So a combination of all these points will actually influence us, will actually be the certain guidance for us to be able to establish that as a team, this is our bandwidth, right? This is our capacity, right? Somebody also has a question here. If you have a question, be fast, because we have just less than 1 minute or so. Somebody has a question here. Let me go back real quick. Oh, I can't see it. Okay, please take sprint review one more time. Okay, so sprint review. Okay, so Kofi is saying that take sprint review. So a sprint review in the course of the sprint, that's a 2 weeks iteration, right? 2 weeks, release cycle. We can have one day in the morning, like our daily stand-up meeting, and then in our daily stand-up meeting, we'll do a sprint review. Right, we look at how things are going. Are we sure that we'll be able to deliver on time? Are we sure that we are not being delayed? This will not delay us. Our deliverable is not going to be impacted. By the end of the 2 week cycle. So we essentially talk about, we review the sprint. That's basically. So imagine that we have 2 week cycle. We have items or feature sets that we are building within the 2 weeks framework or the 2 weeks release cycle. And then we are reviewing the sprint. So what are we talking about? We're talking about us. We're talking about the feature sets. Maybe somebody is sick. Somebody has taken off. Somebody's going on vacation. All these things are planned. We need to review all these things so that, it will not have a negative impact on our deliverables, essentially. All right, guys, it's already 7. We're going to end today's session over here. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Have a nice day, guys.